censorship is all the rage, right? So if you find yourself being for censorship, you're wrong. And you've been propagandized, and you're supposed to be against censorship no matter where it comes from. So if it comes from the state or the church or a corporation, you're supposed to be against censorship. It doesn't matter if they're a private company, that doesn't make it morally or ethically okay to censor. Okay. And so what's happening now is YouTube permanently bans Fox News host Dan Bongino. Now, I thought Dan Bongino was also tapped to take over for Rush Limbaugh, wasn't he? I don't know if he's still doing that. But now, again, I find most of Dan Bongino's views odious. I'm sure there's a few things we might agree on. But I haven't seen many. But I don't think he should be censored, because that just means I can't counter him. That's what that means. If you want someone censored, that means you don't have a better argument. That's what that means. And that's why people want censorship. So what happened to Don? Um, I always mix up, by the way, his name Don Bongino with DiGiorno Pizza. I always that it's not delivery, it's Bongino. Anyway, I always get it wrong. It says Fox News Channel host Dan Bongino on Wednesday became among the most followed conservative personalities to be permanently banned from YouTube. Now, you remember how it was just going to be Alex Jones and everybody was okay because it was just Alex Jones? And what about those families that Alex Jones was targeting? They had to move 7 times, Jimmy. They had to move 7 times. Don't you think we should censor? No, you shouldn't censor. There's a court process. We have free speech laws. And if he's breaking the free speech laws, then he should be put in jail for that. But until then, we have a court process. Now, so it went from Alex Jones to the former president of the United States gets banned. Just going to be Alex Jones. Then it's the former president of the United States. Then it's a Kennedy. Then it's the guy who invented the mRNA vaccine technology. And now it's the most popular host on frickin' Fox, or one of them. So now it's everybody and anybody. Now they want Joe Rogan. So now it's anybody and everybody that they don't like. This is exactly what I predicted. And when I was on air at the Young Turks, they all laughed and said I was wrong. And of course, the Young Turks, yes, they were all for censoring Alex Jones, all of them. The only person against it was me at the Aggressive Progressives and Malcolm. The only people against it was me, Steph, and Malcolm on Aggressive Progressives. Even Steve O, my good friend Steve O, who was an executive at the company, he was vehemently for banning. We had a shouting match on air that you could Google on YouTube and it'll come up. But they were all wrong 100%. I told them exactly what was going to happen, and exactly what I said has happened. They started banning Alex Jones because everybody hates Alex Jones. Yeah, it's not Alex Jones. It's about the fucking principle. And now here we are. Now they're banning anybody they don't like. So he got permanently banned a week after Google-owned video service said he had posted COVID-19 misinformation. Well, NBC News posts COVID-19 misinformation all the time on YouTube, and they don't get strikes, and they don't even take it down. I pointed out on this show where they've just lied about, and those videos are still up, about the death rate and the risk to children. NBC News just lied. Rachel Maddow lied about the vaccines, just flat out lied for 5 minutes. Those videos are still up at YouTube, and they'll never be fucking demonetized, and they'll never be banned, and they'll never be given a community guideline strike, because they are the corporation. And this is corporate fascism. So they got rid of him for COVID-19 misinformation, but not Rachel Maddow, not President Biden, who regularly spews misinformation on COVID. Not CNN, not Lawrence O'Donnell's host, a producer who's spewing misinformation on COVID on Twitter. No, who is it? Don Bongino, because we don't like him. YouTube suspended one of Bongino's YouTube channels on January 20th after he posted a video where he questioned the effectiveness of using masks against the coronavirus. And that's a violation of the company's pandemic-related misinformation policy. The company being YouTube, owned by Google, in bed with the CIA and the Pentagon. That's who's giving free speech laws. A company that's in bed with the Pentagon and the CIA. Okay. He later his later attempt to circumvent that 1 week suspension by posting from another channel triggered a permanent ban, YouTube said. Saga and Jetty, as Bernie Sanders would say, Saga. Dan Bongino was banned from YouTube for saying cloth masks don't work that well against COVID, a claim that the CDC itself says now. That's what Sagar and Jetty said. And here's what the New York Times said. Breaking news: for the first time, the CDC said cloth masks weren't as effective as other options. Wear the most protective mask you can, the agency urged. What's the subheadline? The CDC concedes that cloth masks do not protect against the virus as effectively, blah, blah, blah. Here is what when I Google, this is what comes up. Oh, by the way, I'm skipping these fucking jokes again. Yeah. So even though the CDC is now starting to back up what he said, I don't have the exact quote of what he said. So it seems like the CDC is starting to back up what Bongino was saying. But that's so here's where the loophole is going to come in. Because he later attempted to circumvent that 1 week suspension by posting from another channel. So even though Don Bongino might be able to push back on this and saying now the CDC agrees with him, YouTube is going to use this to say no, he violated our policy of not of. So that's the loophole. They're going to say, okay, maybe it wasn't misinformation, but he's still guilty of trying to circumvent the suspension we gave him for that misinformation, which was wrong, it turns out, but not as wrong as circumventing our ban that was wrong. Watch, that's going to be their excuse. So that's what's going to happen. And by the way, here's Sagar. And Sagar, I got something to tell you. Don't you know this is about stopping the threat of Fox News? You've never heard the old saying, it's not what you say, it's whether a corporate fact checker with blue hair likes the person saying it. That's what this is about, Sagar. And by the way, this is the New York Times. This is misinformation. New York Times I'm not saying this, obviously. This is misinformation. I say go ahead and crochet yourself a mask. Because they work. That's what I say. Go full crochet. So now here's what I Google. This is what comes up. What should workers know about cloth face coverings and the protection they provide? Cloth face coverings, whether this is, by the way, from the FDA. Cloth face coverings, whether provided by the employer or brought from home by the worker, are not respirators or disposable face masks and do not protect the worker wearing them from exposures. That's what they're saying. So if you're wearing a mask, if you're wearing a cloth face mask, according to the FDA, it does not protect the worker wearing them from exposures.
That's from April 2020.
So I Googled this yesterday. So this is what comes up if you Google it. So this is current, is what I'm saying. Cloth face coverings are only intended to help contain the wearer's respiratory droplets from being spread. Used in this way, CDC has recommended cloth face coverings to slow the spread of the virus that causes COVID-19. Wearing them may help people who unknowingly have the virus from spreading it to others. Workers can wear a cloth face covering if the employer has determined that a respirator or a disposable face mask is not required based on the workplace hazard assessment. So you can wear a cloth if your employer says it's not required. Saying that it's, do you see what I'm saying? So I hope I didn't say that confusingly, but it sounded like I did. So workers can wear a cloth face mask covering if their employer has determined that disposable face masks are not required. I don't know where that is. Everywhere you're asked to wear a face mask. It's like in California right now, there's an indoor face mask thing. You have to wear a face mask indoor unless you're eating or drinking. And that means a mask, a disposable mask. I'm pretty sure it doesn't mean a cloth mask. I could be wrong about that. So, but I know they won't let you on a plane with a cloth mask. If you have a cloth mask and try to get on an airplane, I've seen flight attendants stop the person and hand them a disposable surgical mask. I've seen that happen. So now Don Bongino is gone from YouTube over misinformation, and I hope we are happy. I bet they are happy. Right? I actually looked up Alyssa Milano's crocheted mask. And to be fair, she says that under her crochet mask is a carbon filter, which goes over her nose and mouth. But to me, that means the carbon filter is the mask. The crochet part is just kind of a mask cozy. Anyway, huge fan. She really wears a crocheted mask, Alyssa Milano.
Over her, it looks like a Star Wars breathing mask. But in the picture, she doesn't say in the picture, it looks like it's just crocheted mask with holes in it. And then that was her comeback. Underneath, I have a very expensive carbon filter, so don't worry. But she's trying to make it look like, oh, look, I just knit masks. It's a mask cozy she made.
So it would seem like that the YouTube knows more about masks and cloth masks than the CDC and the FDA. And I bet they do. YouTube is smarter than everybody.
Hey, for $12 an hour, that's some quality fact checking they probably get.
That's right. So YouTube is probably right, and Don Bongino and the FDA and the CDC and everybody else is in hot water.
I like that you've said his name right one time.
Did I?
Don Bongino, yes. This is a very confusing. That's how I feel about it.
I like saying names wrong, but
I support it.
But I do love Don Bongino.
He's very popular.
Oh yeah. One time I got in a fight with him. I punched him right in his bongina. So there you go. Censorship is here. It's and everybody's cool with it, and you're all a bunch of fucking suckers. And YouTube should be made a goddamn public utility, because you couldn't do. All right, the phone company can't cut off your phone service if they don't like the shit you're saying on their phone. Hey, you're using your phone to foment discord. I'm not going to cut off. They can't do that. So, and you couldn't run a business. Everybody knows you can't run a business without a phone. But just like you couldn't run a business without a phone 25 years ago, you can't run a business today without social media. You have to have a Facebook and an Instagram and a Twitter and a YouTube account often to be a public person and a public business. You have to have all those things. And to give you, just to put you on the same level playing field as your competitors. Because without that, you can't compete. And so that's why social media should be considered a public utility. If it's free, if it's the public square, which it is, it should be treated like a real public square where free speech laws are in effect. So you can't just ban somebody from a park who's speaking, or on the street corner who's speaking shit you don't like, even if you think it's misinformation. That's called free speech. So we should have free speech laws applied to social media, and social media should be turned into a public utility, something that's essential that everybody has a right to. And if you're going to take that right away from someone, they deserve a court case. They have to have a hearing. Because if you're going to take away someone's free speech, that's a constitutionally protected right. You have to do it in court, and that's the way it should be done. And I've had people on the Young Turks say, oh, so every time they want to ban somebody from social media, from Facebook or YouTube, they have to go to court? Fuck yes.
They really said that?
Yes.
Like that. They couldn't believe the idea that they shouldn't just be allowed. I love that. There's a company that can do what they want. We just got done watching Spotify can't do what they want, right? You're going to bitch and moan that they're doing what they want.
Right. Yeah.
The second What matters if it's a guy I don't like. If it's someone I don't like, then they have to do what I want because they have a platform.
That's right. But if it's someone I like, then they don't have to be censored. So this is the world we're living in now. Yes, I was literally, that was a retort. I was told the Young Turks was that. So you would have to go to court every time they're going to take somebody's free speech away? Yes. Yes. Guess what? You have to go to court if someone steals a piece of candy. You have to go to court. You have to go to court if someone wants a hearing on a jaywalking ticket, they could get it. You have to fucking there has to be a legal process. Banning someone from social media and taking away their free speech rights there's no judicial process whatsoever.
Yeah, that's why we do it. It's to get around that nonsense
right.
of having your rights.
And so now the tech company that's actually owning the government and directing the government, because it's the other way. The government isn't directing big tech. Big tech is directing government. Big tech is your government. Corporations own our government. We live in an oligarchy. This isn't a democracy. And so when you say it's a private company, yeah, the company that runs the government. Okay.
That's why China and Russia are so autocratic, because they just take their oligarchs and put them in jail whenever they want.
That's right.
They don't have any oligarch input.
Okay, well, here it is. Went from Alex Jones to now everybody. Congratulations, shitlibs. Congratulations, TYT. You got your wish. Everybody's censored. But you, because you're doing the bidding of your billionaire donor, Jeffrey Katzenberg, who owns you. Over to
Hey,
Steph.
if you
go ahead.
If you want to hear something, if you want to hear a hip young podcast, there's Pod Save America.
Hey, we're doing live stand-up shows in Los Angeles, February 5th, February 12th, February 18th, February 20th. We're in Philadelphia.